Iowa has been my home for the last 12 years, but I'm making plans to leave it. Moving is a regular life event for me that happens about every 10 years. In the past, as now, it seems that whenever I am about to leave a place, I begin to feel my connection to it more strongly. I sometimes feel like I haven't had enough time, that I should have done more here, and then I begin to worry about all the what-ifs, about what comes next, and I feel the next destination begin to impress upon me. But ready or not, I'm moving on. Moving is hard work, emotionally and physically. Presently, our house sits at 660 27th Street in Des Moines, and it is very full of things that eventually need to be packed away. I fill up boxes in my free time, but I hesitate to do it. I tell myself that I'm either too busy or that there's still plenty of time, but I know that I am avoiding it. Things seem pretty much the same, but only now everything is imbued with a sense of transience and melancholia. The status of these countless objects around me is uncertain, and I know that there will be no new books or tchotchkes to fill the vacated spaces that are beginning to appear. When these items are taken down and placed inside their little cardboard chrysalises, I'm not so sure that they will reemerge. Some will be lost or broken in the migration. Some will be discarded and given away. Some perhaps even burned. All of these objects belong to one of these futures, but which one I can't say. Maybe they know. I am more aware of my temporal entanglements with these things. This is their home too. Their forms seem to vibrate more now with their own stories and materials shaped by former owners and creators. A home is an aggregate of things and experiences. Its boundaries delineate the measured and mapped space from the wildness that is beyond. Its perimeters are made up to warn us not to cross the line, climb the fence, or jump the hedge. Doing so may lead us into conflict with another, or we may find that we've strayed into unknown territories. Where does my home end and another's begin? What divides one home from the next? What connects them? Each of these plots is home to countless invisible societies of mycelia, bacteria, protozoa, nematodes, and fungi that sustain this place. But trying to find the origin of my home would be a little like trying to find where my yard ends and another begins. It's not possible, really. Origins exist in the imaginary, ordered world of property. We find them in maps and timetables, in the spiral-bound abstract, but not in the messy and entangled mesh of life. Western cultures like to think in nouns instead of verbs, I think. A consequence of this is that the world becomes more objectified and distant, more contained. But when things are active, they flow and they vibrate with presence. Where is the origin of the river? The river is originating at every point and in between, and all at once. How best to cultivate what Jean Gebser calls senseful awareness, a being with instead of being in or on? How best to be with landscapes? How best to be with moving? I have lived my life in little plots that have all had constant locations and addresses that I could always find my way back to, even before the days of GPS. As a child, I drew maps out of magic markers and typing machine paper while sitting at the kitchen table. I draw little pictures of the places I knew, our house, my grandparents' house, my school, the lake. And then I'd connect each one with a winding pathway, retracing it in pencil, as if I were on a journey. But time seems to move differently now. There is a complexity to the pathways. There's a complexity which has become intensified under the planetary realities that we sense but struggle to adapt to. The past and future seems more interwoven into our experiences. Complexity follows sedentarianism, and from complex society comes inequality and resource depletion, usually followed by strife and eventual dissolution. Philosopher Karl Jaspers coined the term the axial age in his book The Origin and Goal of History to describe the time of human development when, quote, the spiritual foundations of humanity were laid simultaneously and independently in China, India, Persia, Judea, and Greece. And these are the foundations upon which humanity still subsists today, end quote. But our foundation isn't likely to subsist much longer. It is wearing away under the planetary realism created by the intensification of clock time and the demands of a global capital economy. In this new liminal age, we might find new ways of being and sensing and relating. Not through the regimented clock time and foundation time, but by wandering and moving with atemporal processual flows while crossing to the other shore and retaining nothing.